Hi everyone, I'm so excited to get started on a brand new series that I want to create. I am calling it Creative Cutter Review. What that basically means to you is that I'm going to take Cricut cartridges one at a time and give you kind of a sneak peek into that cartridge. We're going to cut some files, we're going to maybe review some of the specialty creative feature buttons in that cartridge. We're going to go through how difficult that cartridge might be for, let's say, a beginning Cricut user. And we're going to go through some of the highlights of this cartridge. I'm going to start off with the Disney Classics cartridge. I've been so anxious to get my hands on this one because I have a nostalgic feeling for all of these old Disney characters and I couldn't wait to use them in my projects. But for this review, we're going to start off by just chatting about the cartridge itself. The first thing I want to mention to you about this Disney Classics is that it is a different style handbook than you may be familiar with. And so as you started to see some of the new cartridges, you will have noticed this is an older cartridge style. The way that they had the blocks laid out was a little bit differently than they do now. So as you can see with the older version, you've got a colored block here, and then all of the creative feature buttons are outlined here to the right, and you have a bottom and a top image in each block. And that's how you would decide whether or not you needed to use your shift key. Now for the newer cartridges, you have still got a block over here that's your main image, but directly below that now you have the image split up into two pieces. The side on the left is what you would get when you just press the button, and the part on the right is what you would get if you press the shift key and that same button. Now all of the colored pieces over here will coordinate with the colored example in this main block over here. You also have a little keypad that will kind of point the way to which button you need to press to access any of the images on this side. Whenever you see an X on the cartridge in any of the blocks, it just means that there is no image available when you use that creative feature button. So for example, on the very first button on Disney Classics, there are no images beneath the creative feature marked layer 3. Now all of these blocks over here to the right will coordinate with one of the 6 creative feature options on the keypad. So to the left of the white keys on every Cricut cartridge you will have these 6 gray buttons that are known as creative feature keys. You need to press one of those anytime you are creating an image to the right hand side of your handbook. Okay, the first shape we are going to cut out is the very first image on this cartridge, but the layers are laid out pretty straightforward, so we want to give this one a cut, and I'm going to stick pretty much to the colors outlined right here in the sample. When you're first starting out to cut an image out of a cartridge you're not familiar with, it's a good idea to cut the images out in the colors suggested, just so you get a feel for the layers and the way that they place them on the finished image. Once you're comfortable with where the features are and how to place the layers, then you can get creative and start using different pattern papers and different colors and really have fun with it. Now the only parts to create this finished image will be the base shape and the shift of the actual button, layer 1, layer 2. Over here there's an icon section, an icon layer, and a shadow feature. Now if we wanted to shadow this icon, we could do this shadow feature. This one happens to go with the icon. This icon layer again works with this base piece over here. So the only layers we're concerned about are these 3 right here, actually 2 because there's none there, to create this one image. Okay, here are the pieces that I cut out with the Disney Classic cartridge on that very first shape, the Alice title. And so I wanted to show you just a couple of things. This cartridge review is going to be about offering you some tips and tricks, and also just giving you some advance warning what a cartridge might take. So about 2.5 inches in size, so you can see that some of the coordinating layers are very tiny. And so just one word of caution, when you do something like a title from this cartridge, you will want to use that for, say, a scrapbook layout or for a bigger project. I was planning on using this on a card, and so I made it purposely small, but I wanted you to see how that can run you some real issues in these little coordinating pieces. The other thing I did is I cut between basil. I tried a sample cut in basil, and I also did one in regular cardstock. I'll just hold these so that you can see. The basil side tended to be, I don't know if I can zoom in on that, tended to be more of a problem for these types of cuts. Now, if I had done it a little bit larger, it might have had a little bit easier time. But for small cuts like this, you're better off doing regular smooth cardstock than you are basil textured cardstock. Now, you're going to want a couple of tools when working with these images, whether they're small or large. This is a cartridge I would consider an advanced cartridge for these reasons. It's going to require a lot of careful cleanup. Now, if you can see there on the in-between pieces, even with a really sharp blade and a sticky mat, you're going to have a lot of cleanup once you pull out these tiny pieces. And so you're going to have to clean up those edges, and there's going to be a lot of fuzzies, and that simply comes from there being a lot more detail than some basic cuts. And so you need to be prepared for that as you get to advanced layering projects. It's not that it's very difficult, it's just that it requires more time. So a couple of tools that I recommend to kind of help you with those types of layering projects as you start to want to tackle those. A quick stick by Quick Cuts is a really fantastic tool. It comes with, it's not an adhesive, it comes with a tacky end on one side that helps you pick up your tiny pieces, and especially with this title where the letters are so stinking small, a tool like this comes in handy. Now, the back half of the stick pulls out and you have a very pointy end and you have a more flat, almost chisel end. That helps you in placing your image. That's how you would place an image. So I recommend a quick stick when you're working with these more advanced pieces. I also recommend that you have a good pair of sharp pointy scissors. Now, I've got some cutaries that I like to use. A lot of people can turn to their sewing or quilting shears. They're the really fine point ones. They're a little bit more expensive, but the fact that you can get into those little tiny crevices and kind of clean up those edges makes for a better result. So you want to get some fine point scissors, fine tip scissors, to help you clean up those edges. The glue that you want to use is also important, and I know a lot of people out there have seen this. It's the Zig 2-way glue. It has a ballpoint pen tip which allows that glue to come out in very thin amounts, and it will fit behind these teeny tiny images. So that's my review of this first image with the Disney Classics cartridge. Tune into my website, www.creativecutter.org, to see the finished piece that I create with this. And we will be doing more cuts out of the Disney Classic cartridge throughout this week. We'll be able to see more cuts out of this cartridge to see if it's one that you just can't wait to buy. Thanks for watching. Please leave a comment. Any questions or suggestions for how you would like to see this series develop would be great. So just let me know. I'll be happy to let you know about all of the great Cricut cartridges.